Welcome to Feisty Chess. We're searching for a game. We've just been paired with ZHK Hawar. See if I can adjust this a little bit. And he's played e4. Alright. I've played a lot of e5 lately. I think I'm going to play something I used to play ages ago. The French defense. Just for a little variety here. So e6, d5. See what kind of variation he goes with. I used to play the classical against knight c3. Let's go for it. The classical variation is knight f6. e5 is the most common move here. Bishop g5 is the second most common. After bishop e7, h4 is a gambit line called the Alekhine-Chittard. Okay, this is good for black. This is good to trade off these dark square bishops. I'm assuming that's what white's going to do. Queen sits nicely on e7, supporting c5. I'm not going to jump into castling just yet. In French defense, you want to get c5 in whenever you can, and then play knight to c6. The idea is we're just going to get as much pressure as we can on d4. That might not be as effective here, because he could play f4 and then knight to f3. But it will still be where our pieces want to go. Okay. f6 is an idea here, but maybe only after castling. I think castling looks pretty good. Castling is pretty committal. It's been a while since I played the French, but you often postpone castling in favor of, say, queenside expansion. I could go b5. a5 also makes some sense. b5 might be better. Yeah, I know in the classical, a lot of lines there's ideas of b5, and especially since he's blocked his bishop off this diagonal. Kind of playing by ear here because I'm out of any concrete lines. But the French is a nice opening to dig into and to get used to, because it's not about concrete lines usually as much as ideas and strategies. So I think this calls for, generally black wants to play on the queen side in the French, while white wants to play on the king side. So king side castling is often playing into white's hands. That being said, there's a lot of different variations in the French, and there's a lot of lines where black is end up playing on the king side, especially when he sacrifices this pawn. But right now, I think it's good to get b5 in. I'll follow up with a6 if I need to. Although I could also just threaten to push b4. Okay, let's go for b5. I may not castle, is the thing. In the French defense, with the center locked up like this, castling is often optional. Keeping my b-pawn back would have maybe allowed me to threaten to castle queenside, but that's probably not likely now. But the queenside could still lock up, in which case it would be safe to castle on that side. Okay. My game yesterday, I made a bit of an error in not putting enough pressure on my opponent, so I'm going to try to play feistier today. What's the point of doing all this on YouTube if we're not going to actually play feisty? For white here, probably knight g3 or even knight f4. Knight g4, knight f4. I might even consider g5. Start kicking around his knights. Okay, he goes to g3 instead. I may want to get g6 in, but actually that's not a problem. I do need to deal with this b5. So options are c4, b4, and a6. b4, he could still bring his bishop to b5, but then bishop to b7 seems pretty much fine. My bishop is my problem piece in the French. I traded off my good bishop, which happens to be white's bad bishop. But at the same time, any trades are good for the side with less space, which is me. If he takes immediately on b4, he could take with the pawn or the knight. I like the knight, the looks of that better. I'll also take right now on d4. Let's just hold our ground and limit that bishop. Go with a6. I can push b4 in the future, but I don't want him playing bishop b5. Okay, now might be a good time to play c4. g6 also makes a lot of sense. That shuts down that g3 knight. I don't see a big future for his f3 knight either. Putting all of our pawns on light squares though, which does make our bishop's life more difficult. Oof, especially if I'm planning c4. Let's do it over here. We don't need to go c4 necessarily, but when in doubt, restrict your opponent's pieces. My queen is flexible enough to maybe come out on the dark squares. Oh, now queen d2. These weaknesses on the king side would be a bigger deal if I hadn't castled. If queen d2, I'm thinking maybe h6. Retain the option of castling, but that option's probably not looking very good. Okay, he castles. Wonder about h5 here. Is that too soon? h5, probably h4 puts a stop to anything. But that does pin his knight to the defense of that h4 pawn while my queen eyes it. Bishop to b7 is a flexible move. We need to make a move. Put the ball in white's court. There comes queen to d2. h6 looks good here. Let's just play it without wasting too much time. We are down on time, so our milestones are going to be important up there. So 15 moves by the 10-minute mark. Okay, he's coming at me on the queen side. Probably need to push or play c4. b4 seems to make sense here. This was the ideas we've already been looking at. This knight b6 ideas are possible now. I think I prefer white here, to be honest. Okay, he's got his king. He's got his rook opposed to my king. Maybe knight b6. Eyeing c4 looks pretty good. Just trying to take apart white's center here. There's also trades. You'd have to recapture with a pawn. Let's see, this pawn takes, pawn takes, pawn takes, pawn takes. Queen b4 adds another attacker onto d4 and threatens to trade off queens. Which may be good for me. Maybe. There's no reason we can't play our knight here, though. That's a little more active. Okay. Queen takes looks like the obvious move. Okay, I've got a bigger center than him. That's the strategic idea that the French often aims for. I'm not a pawn up, but I've made him abandon d4. He's looking at sacrifices now on e6. He is looking at those sacrifices. I don't see anything really dangerous about that if I just go knight b6 here. He doesn't have a forcing sacrifice. Okay, knight to b6 to c4. Knight c4, and then knight e6. Doesn't seem to have much sting. If he sacks that knight for 2 pawns by following up with bishop takes g6 check, I move my king to d7, e7. He doesn't have any immediate checks. His queen is still under threat. I've got g5 covered. I don't have his g3 knight shut down anymore. Is this something to be concerned about? He's maybe making a threat on b4. Maybe we want to deal with that now. I'm little weak on the b file with some undefended pieces. Well, knight takes is certainly the simplest continuation, but that plays into white's hands. Okay, let's do this. We're getting low on time. Missing our marks for time here. So we are playing on the queen side. Okay, he goes for the trades. So the sacrificial ideas are no longer there. How do I want to recapture? I can open up my bishop. That seems very good. Could also take on b4 now. But yeah, let's open up the bishop here. Might give us some structural weaknesses on the queen side by, say, after c takes b4, but it's better to have that bishop problem solved. Can also get a rook to d8 against white's queen. We've got some mate threat ideas with queen d5 as well. Okay. He's getting a fork in. Alright, this is why that's why you don't abandon d5. Okay. He's getting a fork in, but I think queen takes e5 covers everything. It looks crazy with the rook opposed to that queen, but queen takes e5. Doesn't it just cover things? His knight doesn't have any checks. Doesn't have any useful discoveries. I can just take it. I can take it on f6, on e6, on d6, and on c5. And I can take it with my queen on g5. Maybe after h4, there's some things to worry about. If I go b... Okay. Let's do this. Let's do this. Getting low on time. Okay, we have won the center, but will we survive? Actually, knight takes c6 looks really good here. Pretty good. Knight takes c6, maybe followed by b takes c takes b4. And I got rook to d1, and I'm looking at his queen too. Yep, there's knight c6. Now he needs to move that knight away, or I'll just take it with my bishop. Okay. Okay, this is good. He's going for the... Oof, that's no good. This is no good. Oof. Ooh, it's been a while, French defense. It's been a while. Of course, that unleashes the queen. Do I have anything here? Do I have any kind of salvation. I've got nothing. That's resign time. Okay, embarrassing loss. I have bad luck on chess.com. I've been doing better on Lichess lately. Alright. Analysis. Yeah, one blunder. Definitely that queen takes e5 was a blunder. Still got in a bit of time trouble, even with, well, that's what happens when you play openings you're not as familiar with. Should have gone queen takes c4 here. That's definitely a mistake. Let's just back up through the game. Start from the end. Okay, obviously queen takes e5 was the final blunder here. Yeah. So, before that, yeah, not, taking with the pawn. Getting ambitious about solving my bishop problem, but not looking at concrete things. Okay, this is a problem I know better than to fall into. This idea of, oh, my bishop is bad, I need to make my bishop bad, but not looking at concrete immediate moves that this allows. So this allows knight to e4, threatening checks on f6, and d6, and opening lines for white's queen. So, yeah. After this, the obvious move is, well, I gotta play queen to b6 or even a7 to avoid this knight fork. Queen b6 doesn't work. Queen b6 doesn't work. It stops. It guards the bishop against this knight check, but once the knight comes here, I can't come here because there's a queen check right here. No, he's got to move that knight out of the way. Let's analyze this. Let's jump to the end. Okay. Jump to the end. Yeah, white's already +3 according to the computer. Yeah, b takes c3 is best, huh? Interesting. But then b takes c3, then queen e7, back to e7. Yeah, that's probably the best. She guards the bishop, she guards any squares near the king. The king will have to maybe castle by hand after a knight check, king f8, and then ultimately to g7. Yeah, that's an obvious blunder. Yeah, queen takes c4 is best. It still has white with a pawn advantage here. Let's start from the beginning. Yeah, to my recollection, this line with bishop takes e7 is known to basically give black an easier task in defending. Although we're still in book territory. Knight c to e2 is inaccurate. Now f6 immediately, huh? c5 is good. Yeah. b5 is inaccurate. Maybe I got too ambitious. The computer says to castle. Just how inaccurate, though? I mean, it's kind of pennies on the computer analysis. Bishop d3 is a mistake. Oh. C takes d4. Knight takes d4. Let's look at that line. Oh, queen b4 check. That's a useful theme to know. I had a pawn I could win here. Could immediately go after black center. Bishop d3 is often a tricky line. And this is often a trap that white can set by putting the bishop here to block the queen's defense at d4. But not really, right? So if I had castled here, well, I'm talking about some different kind of French tactics, but there's this tactic here. Now, queen to d2, and now we pick up a piece. But if I had castled here, he would have bishop takes h7 check, winning my queen. And if I hadn't had my knight or a piece on d7, he would have bishop b5 check, winning a queen. So it's often a way that white can still protect d4 tactically. But not here. And I didn't notice that I had the tactic to win d4. So c takes, and then after pawn takes, queen b4. I was aware that queen b4 checks were an idea, but I didn't see that it would help me to win d4 here. So, okay, file that away under patterns to remember. g6 is a mistake. Not even an inaccuracy, an outright mistake. Well, because I'm already better because of the tactic, which I missed. But white has an advantage after g6. Castling gets him out of all that trouble because there's no more queen b4 check. Okay. Still, we got a pretty healthy white advantage here. Now it really likes white. It says to just castle here. You know, there's no dark square bishops, so maybe those dark square weaknesses aren't so serious in the end. Maybe I should have considered castling. French is tough to play. The French is tough to play because you have big decisions like whether to castle or not. Often you're walking into lots of Greek gift, bishop takes h7 check, sacrificial ideas when you castle in the French, especially once white gets that bishop to d3. a4. a4 is not so good because I've got b4. Knight b6 is not so good. Rook c8. Not being afraid of any kind of knight takes e6 sacrifices here. I was worried about knight takes e6, and then pawn takes, bishop takes with check. White has two pawns for the piece, and they're quite healthy pawns that are connected passers, the f and e pawns. Sorry, the e pawn's not a passer. But more importantly, black's king is really hurting here for safety. I suppose on the queen side, let's see what the computer thinks of this line. Let's see, whose move is it here? Probably it's no good. Knight takes e6. Says it was a blunder. Just try to open up the queen side before. That allows black to trade queens. What about this? King d7, and now we just get the queen to safety. Likes king e7 a little better. Either way, let's see what the idea is here. C takes b4, allowing this trade of queens, because white will have three pawns for the piece. But I gotta imagine that white wants to keep queens on here. Maybe queen f4. But black's coordinated. You can get a rook to f file. Maybe queen comes here. Black's knights are getting troublesome. Okay. Well, that was... I was a little too afraid of those sacrifices. Spent a little too much time. And I didn't see this basic combination. I just missed knight takes c6. And I really should have taken a moment here to maybe at least play something like queen c7. Yeah, which is best. But you know, it's already +8 for white here. Queen d4. Yikes. Bishop takes c6. We're just going to go down the exchange now. A whole rook. This is terrible. This is resignable. But still, white might have been likely to rather play knight back to d4 or knight here. Or not there. Back to d4. And that could buy me some time to get my king safer and to threaten things. Yeah. Got a pawn for the piece. That's at least more of a chance than I had in the game. So, alright. Rough go of it. First time playing the French defense, honestly, really, in like 15 years. So, maybe we'll crank it out again and see if we can't get it working. I do remember liking the French defense. It's very combative and very imbalanced. And black's got good chances if white overextends and can take down white's center. So, alright, rough go of it today. Back to a losing record, so hopefully next time I can rectify that. Thanks for watching, folks. See you later.